Welcome everyone to the L7C podcast, Mixed Martial Arts Edition. Today we are continuing the L7C Bracket Challenge month. This is the second or third bracket challenge you'll be hearing, depending on when this episode comes out. But the first one's already out. We did that with Andrea and Byron, so now we have the Mixed Martial Arts bracket that we're doing with the Mixed Martial Arts expert, Mr. Chuck Marlowe. How are you doing today, sir?
I am doing fantastic. As you said, it is the month of March. March Madness is right around the corner. I'm ready to reign supreme in the area I usually do reign supreme, March Madness.
Love to hear it. Love to hear it. So the way Chuck's bracket was, I reached out to him before he even knew what we were doing. I asked him what his favorite division in UFC ever was. He said it was the welterweights. So what I did, random seating, compiled some of the greatest welterweights of all time, put them in a 12-man bracket, and we're going to see who reigns supreme as Chuck's greatest welterweight. He's looking at the bracket as I'm looking at the bracket. Again, random seating and all these fights. Chuck's going to be dissecting them. If these both fighters were in their prime, who would win? And we're going to go forward. Chuck, you ready?
Ready as I can be. This when you get into situations like this, it's a what if. So it's what if scenario. So I'm ready.
All right, man. Let's just start it right from the top, man. John Fitch versus Mr. Usman. If they were both in their prime fighting, who would win this fight?
All right. So John Fitch, 27-5 overall record
Hmm.
versus Kamaru Usman's 20-4. Think about the reign that these guys had. Usman won the belt.
Hmm.
I want to say it was against Tyron Woodley, who had one of the most dominant reigns in that welterweight division.
Hmm.
And he had five title defenses after getting that belt, and he held it for a while. Compared to John Fitch, who I don't think actually ever held the belt, or he didn't hold it for a long time, from what I
Hmm.
remember. And based off of overall just level of skill, I would say in the prime, if you're calculating like takedowns and takedown defense, John Fitch had a 56% takedown defense.
Hmm.
Something that I've seen Kamaru Usman do against other fighters is always go for wrestling and takedowns if he knows that they can't beat him in wrestling.
Hmm.
And he can also beat guys in striking too that had good striking. So I'm going to obviously go with Kamaru Usman in this one. I think that would be an easy win for Kamaru Usman. I'm
Hmm.
not saying that John Fitch would be cakewalk, but I say that Kamaru would easily walk through him.
All right. All right. Let's move him up. Let's.
Don't have to do much explanation there. We all know who Kamaru Usman is.
Man, what about Mr. Ben versus Carlos Condit?
So, in my opinion, Ben Askren's ass should never be on here. Ben Askren, he was good. I mean, 19-2 is a great record.
Hmm.
Not a fun fighter to watch. Did a lot of wrestling, obviously. Striking really wasn't great. His striking wasn't anything significant. Carlos Condit, I mean, 15 wins by knockout, 13 by submission, four by decision. Had some pretty outstanding fights in his time in the UFC. I feel like this fight would be close.
Hmm.
Now, I don't think that Ben Askren really holds that level. And I think that Carlos Condit would honestly, I don't know. See, this is hard. This one's a tough one to me because Ben Askren, before he ran into Jorge Masvidal, was doing pretty good, walking through people, getting a lot done as far on the ground and stuff. And he was getting his wins. But I don't know. This one's tough to me. I gotta look at their stats. You got Ben Askren, who's landing 3.64 strikes per minute, average takedowns 4 per minute, 15 minutes, taking 5 strikes per minute, though. See, that's one thing I gotta look at is the amount of strikes getting absorbed too is a big thing. And I just want to know what was his takedown defense? 39%. 39% takedown defense. Not great. I feel like Ben Askren could have taken him down, won this fight in a boring style in his prime. As
Hmm.
much as I say that Ben Askren really shouldn't be on this list, his wrestling is very elite.
Hmm.
And that's why he won fights. They weren't entertaining, they weren't what people wanted to watch. I mean, he had six knockouts too. I'm not going to discredit him too much as far as striking. His striking wasn't good, but I'm going to say Ben Askren just because I can tell you the style of fight he would do would be a lot of wrestling, it'd be boring, but he'd win.
Not bad. Go. All right, man. Next one, this one, Nick Diaz versus BJ Penn.
Now, this one is probably honestly the toughest one because these are two guys who were great in their prime. And honestly, I gotta think about this one. I mean, you have Nick Diaz, who I want to say he didn't hold the belt. I know BJ held the belt, but he didn't have any title defenses. And I remember he only had the belt, and then he left for K1. Um, and I remember the fight that they had. I think it was UFC 137.
Hmm.
I want to say it was BJ Penn versus Nick Diaz. And honestly, you could say they're both in their prime then. I can't remember. I think it was Nick who ended up winning that fight. In their, I mean, I guess you could say they were both in their prime around then.
Hmm.
It was unanimous decision. It was a 3 round fight, which is weird now. When you go to main events, usually now they're all 5 rounds. Whoever the main event is, always is 5 rounds, even if it's a fight night, even if it's not for a belt. That was a 3 round fight. It was a unanimous decision for Nick Diaz. Um, and that's something I'm going to factor in heavy here. When you look at the amount of total strikes and significant strikes, he outstruck him 257 to 107. And this is the only reason why I'm going to lean towards the prime being Nick Diaz being the one who would take this fight. Because, I mean, honestly, that was around the time they were both in their primes. UFC 137 was what? I want to say, I don't know how many years ago that was. I can't even remember how old I was. This is when they were doing the old graphics and everything was nice. Let me see what I gotta find the year on that. I want to find the year because that's gonna bother me if I don't know. Yeah, October 29th. October 29th when? All right, year doesn't matter. Either way, I know at that time they were both, I want to say I would say they're in their prime at that time. BJ Penn was 32. Nick Diaz was like 28 at the time. Nick Diaz, I say, takes it overall because, I mean, his overall work within that division, I
Hmm.
mean, to be 26-11, 13 wins by knockout, 8 by submission. He can get it done on the ground and on the feet, I think, as far as striking and being able to have offense with his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu on the ground. BJ Penn would lose. I say we advance Nick Diaz to the next round.
Okay. Royce Gracie versus Matt Hughes.
Okay, yeah, this one's easy to me. Royce Gracie is a legend. A legend. We know this. He is
Hmm.
a legend to combat sports in general. But Matt Hughes was a fucking freak. Like when I say one of the best welterweights, Matt Hughes was definitely the guy. I mean, he only had 2 title defenses, but I mean, 45-9 overall record, I want to say. Yeah, 46-9 overall record. This fight already happened a long time ago, and I think that was UFC 60. It was Matt Hughes versus Royce Gracie.
Hmm.
Both, I wouldn't say in their prime, but close enough. I say in his prime, Matt Hughes takes Royce Gracie and advances. So I'm going to push him on. Royce Gracie had good takedown defense, is one thing I'll give him.
Hmm.
But Matt Hughes was just an animal. I mean, his significant strikes that he'd get, the way he would just bash people's heads in a lot of the time. Matt Hughes advances all the way.
Okay. Okay. Now that was the first round. Now we got round two. It's kind of funny how this one first one in round two. Leon Edwards versus Kamaru Usman in their primes. Who you got?
I know it's easy to say Leon because Leon won the last fight, but if you look at the fight and how that was going for Leon before he decided to get a head kick and knock him out in the last second, and I know he won in the second fight,
Hmm.
I'm still giving it to Kamaru Usman because Kamaru Usman in his prime had a better title run. He still honestly is a better fighter than Leon Edwards in a sense of I think in his prime, if he really wanted to get his wrestling like done the way he wanted to, I think he could beat Leon in the wrestling. Because I mean, look at what Bilal Muhammad did to Leon Edwards wrestling. And I think that that's still a weak point for Leon Edwards, even in his prime. And that's something for Kamaru Usman that comes naturally. Kamaru Usman honestly could have beat him in the first fight if it would have not happened to a last second knockout by the kick. He obviously lost the second one, but I think that you have to move Kamara along because I say his title run was way more historic than Leon Edwards. And I think also in his prime, Kamara is a better fighter overall. I mean, the people that he's a lot of UFC fighters will tell you right now the toughest fight that they've had in the welterweight division is Kamara Usman. I mean, even Khamzat Chimaev, who's one of the best wrestlers, literally like walking through people right now with wrestling, said that his toughest fight was against Kamara Usman because his wrestling.
All right, Usman goes to the final four. Tyron Woodley versus Ben.
Finally, we get to my boy Tyron, man. Tyron Woodley, one of the best welterweight title runs. Held that belt for I want to say I can't remember how many years. I gotta look it up. I can't want to say 5 years, but I want to be accurate before I tell you guys any misinformation. Just so you guys can hear me typing, but I want to give y'all accurate information.
All right.
Four successful title defenses, and he held the belt for how long though? That's not telling me what I want to know. I hate trying to look stuff like this up because they never want to give you the right answer. That's fine. I'll get back to that. Either way, I mean, let's get to the list of people he walked through on his title reign.
Mhm.
I mean, he fought against some good people because he won the title in 2016 and he lost it. So he held the belt for 3 years. Sorry, yeah, I had it right. 3 years. He got it in July 30th, 2016. He lost to Kamaru Usman on March 2nd at UFC 235. He had four title defenses, and they were all beautiful. Some of them, except for the one against Stephen Thompson. We all know how that went. Yeah, he fought Darren Till, beat Darren Till by submission. Um, he fought against Damian Maia, won that by unanimous decision. Won against Stephen Thompson. That was the one that was kind of like boring. He won against, or he had the draw against Stephen Thompson. Also, that was like meh. And then you had the win against Robbie Lawler when he actually won the belt. So, I mean, then you have Ben Askren. Ben Askren, who never held the belt. I think Tyron Woodley had one of the top takedown defenses. I mean, he didn't get taken down until he went against Kamaru Usman. He
Mhm.
had 100% takedown defense until he went against Kamaru Usman and he got taken down. That's why I'm don't someone fact check me. Someone's going to fact check me, but I'm pretty sure that's right. So that's why I feel like a fight against Ben Askren, he would have the better striking, and he'd have the better wrestling overall. I mean, he wrestled at I want to say Missouri, and he's an elite wrestler just like Ben Askren, just not an Olymp. Well, let me not correct myself there. Um, but yeah, I'm just gonna say Tyron Woodley moves on for obvious reasons.
Okay. All right.
He had a way better prime than Ben Askren.
Robbie Lawler versus Nick Diaz.
Ooh, now this is where we get tough. We're getting to the later rounds.
Hmm.
Um, man, this is tough. I'm sorry. I'm trying to like think
Oh no, that's the
because
point of these brackets, man.
these
Make you
are
think.
because I want to say they fought UFC 47. Nick Diaz beat him by knockout. And then they fought at UFC 266, like I want to say that was like what, 4 years ago.
Hmm.
And Lawler won TKO in the third round. But like obviously, it's like Nick Diaz had a long layoff from that time. They're both not in their prime. Robbie Lawler, I said he kind of aged like fine wine, where he
Hmm.
kept fighting good into his later years, as where Nick Diaz started slowly descending
Hmm.
into his later years. And plus, he had a huge layoff around that time. And that's when he got into all that stuff with the UFC. In their prime, I'm going Nick Diaz. I know people are gonna be like, Nick Diaz never held the belt. Robbie Lawler held the belt. Robbie Lawler was a great champion. Yada yada yada. I mean, Nick Diaz is striking, I think, and his offense he has on the ground is just one of the most versatile people he could beat. Because like if you take him down, it's like, all right, you think you can beat him in wrestling, but he can be offensive and at least make you worry on the ground.
Hmm.
Robbie Lawler was a brawler and he was able to take hits, but I mean, Nick Diaz had some clean tracking, which is why he won back at UFC 47. So I'm going to say Nick Diaz advances.
All right, Nick Diaz advances. GSP versus Matt.
All right. So I already know who I want to take. It's going to be GSP, but I'm not trying to discredit Matt Hughes, but GSP is the first ever true MMA artist. He was a true mixed martial artist. He he was a pioneer.
Hmm.
Like when people talk about Michael Jordan's, LeBron James,
Hmm.
Larry Bird's, Magic Johnson's, like people who changed the way the game was looked at,
Hmm.
George St. Pierre was him. I mean,
Okay.
he came in like, who the heck is this guy from Canada? And he just, he was so well versed. I mean, he would be able to beat you in wrestling. He'd be able to beat you on the ground. He'd be able to beat you in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He'd be able to beat you in judo. He'd be able to beat you in karate. He'd be able to beat you like in every single facet. I mean, 26-2 overall record is a pretty damn good record. Um, 13 fight win streak, 12
Hmm.
wins by decision, 9 title defenses. I
Hmm.
mean, 74% takedown accuracy, 84% takedown defense. I mean, the guy was just amazing. And he's only absorbing 1.4 significant strikes per minute. You compare that to someone like, let's say Kamaru Usman, it's 2.74 absorbed strikes per minute. That's a, you say that's like 1.3 difference. You might be like, oh, that's not significant, but that's really actually significant. I
Hmm.
mean, like you look at someone like Ben Askren, who's taking 5.66 significant strikes per minute. That's why I said his stand up and his striking was not there. So George St. Pierre was really on point with not getting hit, but hitting others. So that's why I'll move on George St. Pierre also.
The final four. And again, these are all people in their primes too, as well. People. Usman versus Woodley.
I mean, I feel like we saw Usman versus Woodley in their primes. I
Hmm.
mean, before Woodley lost his confidence, he lost his confidence to Kamara. Um, and I obviously have to go with Usman on this one. I mean, Usman was able to break down Woodley. He was
Hmm.
able to really, he was the one who got him out of that title reign. I mean, I say in the prime, Kamara is obviously better than Tyron Woodley. I don't have to put too much more explanation into that.
Nick Diaz versus GSP.
I feel like I don't really have to put too much explanation into this one either because GSP, like I said, a he was a trendsetter. He was the one who set the wave for everybody to follow. I mean, he was the first true mixed martial artist. And I feel like if he had to go against Nick Diaz in his prime, he would dog walk him.
All right. Championship main event at UFC pick your number, the Madison Square Garden or Vegas, the main event for the title belt in this bracket. Kamar Usman versus GSP, both in their physical fighting primes. Chuck, how many rounds is this going? Who's winning and by how?
One thing I want to highlight before I get to this one that I missed on the last one.
Hmm.
Nick Diaz and George St. Pierre. I remember they fought, I think it was like UFC 158.
Hmm.
And I remember how that fight went. It was nothing but GSP dominating him with like his superior wrestling. Um, I think Nick Diaz had a bunch of good moments on the feet,
Hmm.
but it ultimately came down he couldn't stop the wrestling of GSP, which is why I give it to GSP also. All right, down to the final two. I know my answer. Unfortunately, I know my answer. Um, while I say Kamaru Usman's good, he had a great title run. I think he's really, really great welterweight overall. But George St. Pierre,
Hmm.
this is a 5 round fight. Maybe fourth round knockout or submission from St. Pierre. I think Kamaru Usman's very smart on the ground to not give up a lot of stuff usually, and he's able to get out of some submissions and stuff. So I
Hmm.
think that's why I would maybe take it to the fourth round for him to really actually break down and slip up and mess up and allow something for George St. Pierre to slip in. But I think that he would also hit George St. Pierre with a few heavy shots, which would slow him down and get him not it's not going to knock him out or stagger him too much, but it's going to be something that makes him think about things differently. But I think that his wrestling and groundwork would come into play too. Like I said, Kamaru has an elite wrestling, so I feel like it would come down to on the feet, which I think George St. Pierre would ultimately win that fight on the feet. Um, but I think overall there would be some grappling here. There'd be a lot of moments where they were able to build up their stamina. He'd also be able to take a lot of the lactic acid build up in Kamaru Usman's muscles, which would take a lot of power out of his strikes by wrestling with him. So that's why I have to give it to GSP. I think it would go to decision most likely, and it would be probably what would the scorecards read? 49-46 GSP, maybe some 48s, 47 sprinkled in there.
Okay.
But ultimately, it would go to GSP moving on and being ranking supreme.
So GSP versus Usman in the main event of the welterweight of all time bracket, and GSP coming out on top. And gosh, I think that'd be a fantastic spectacle if it was real. If we
Oh,
could get these fighters in
they
their
charge us
prime.
$250.
Oh, I mean, especially if like that's the main event, and then you have the if you had the third place. So just a bonus one, Chuck. Obviously, Usman came in second, GSP came in first, and we had Woodley and Nick Diaz in the final four. Who would win this third place match? Woodley and Diaz.
Willie versus Nick Diaz. Oh man. Oh, let me think.
Yeah, so this would be the co-main event. This would be third place on the card, fighting for third place.
I say I don't think they ever fought. This is tough.
Mm.
Hmm. I'm trying to think if Prime and Prime crashing up because I mean Tyron Willie's prime was really like 2016 to 2018. Nick Diaz's was like 2011 to 2013.
Hmm.
I think Woodley's path to victory most likely would involve a lot of wrestling and control, getting him up against the cage on the ground in some areas where he's not able to be offensive with his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Um, you'd have to look for that overhand right a lot of the time during that fight. Because that was his money shot. That was like his money punch. It was his overhand right because I think he fought orthodox usually, which means he fights with his left hand, left leg forward, right hand back. For anyone who doesn't know, his leg kicks were pretty good because I mean he had tree trunks for legs, and just the amount of leg kicks that he'd be able to take towards Nick Diaz because he didn't really check leg kicks that much.
Hmm.
Um, Now, as for Nick Diaz, what he'd be able to do for and able to try and win, I'd say is probably just applying a lot of pressure. Diaz had really good cardio, which Woodley had a lot of muscle and he'd had a lot of weight in those muscles, which I said he could build up that lactic acid in those muscles, which would take a lot of power and strength out of him and tire him out.
Hmm.
He also was like his brother, where they had that style of fighting where they're not going to hit you super hard, but they're going to tap you a lot. And it's a lot of boxing style. So they're going to be just hitting you with little things here, one, twos, jab here, jab there. But eventually that takes its toll. Um, like I said, he's always a threat on the ground as far as submission. So he'd have to look for an opening. But the most likely outcome, I would say, in a 5 round fight, Diaz honestly would probably break him down with the pressure. And I think it would be either a decision win or it would be, ooh, if it was a 5 round fight, I say it's going to Diaz because his pressure probably honestly would have tired Woodley out. And he would either got on a late stoppage or a decision win. Now, if it was a 3 round fight, I think Tyron Woodley's explosiveness and wrestling could have got him a decision win, or he could have probably just pressed the gas a little bit more and it would have gone to him. So I'm going to go with Nick Diaz because most likely it would be a 5 round fight in this scenario. So I'm giving it to Nick.
All right, all right. There you have it, guys. First ever MMA bracket challenge for the L7C in the March bracket month. Did the welterweights. So this time next year, we're gonna make this definitely a tradition. This time next year in March, we're gonna have Chuck do a different MMA bracket. Maybe he does a different division. Maybe he does. Maybe we do one with UFC shows, throw on some random UFC cards, and which card was better. Who knows? We'll find out next year on that bracket challenge. Now, before we do close, there was a fight. There was a card that happened before we were even gonna do this bracket challenge, and we saw something I did not foresee, Chuck. Alex Pereira losing. Uh, Definitely talk about what you saw in that match and just the card overall, because I was shocked.
Yeah, I think pretty much everybody was shocked with the outcome. I think we're more shocked by the outcome because of the way the fight was won.
Hmm.
The complaining from the scoring, the complaining from pretty much everybody. That fight, I don't know how to. So for me personally, I think I had Alex winning in the end, but based off of my own judgments and what I saw, I had Alex winning. I thought he had round one, three, and five.
Hmm.
I didn't see enough. For me personally, I didn't see enough damage being dealt from Ankalaev in the positions he had Alex Pereira in. One thing we're always talking about when it comes down to it is damage. If I'm holding you up against a cage for 5 rounds and you can't do anything, but I'm not hurting you,
Hmm.
yes, I'm winning that fight, but I'm not really winning it in a significant fashion. It's kind of
Hmm.
the safe way to win. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with what Ankalaev did because on the end of the day, it got him a win. But I mean, if you look at significant damage, I mean, leg kicks alone, Alex was dealing so many leg kicks that was eating Ankalaev up, which is why I don't think he ultimately took Alex Pereira to the ground only once, I think. So I think that it really didn't do too much damage what he was doing. And I think that Alex had more damage dealt. I
Hmm.
mean, he had the one significant strike he had the biggest significant strike, honestly, of the fight where he had stunned and wobbled Alex before the round ended in round two. And if that's what you're going to judge it off of, and that's what you're going to give the win off of, I think that's kind of horseshit.
Hmm.
Um, I think I'm with every fan where I think that fight was kind of like you honestly should have just left it up to a draw. There wasn't enough volume from either fighters. I don't think Alex was aggressive enough. I think he got one of the reasons also is presence. Is what the not presence is damn what the fuck is that word? What the judges perceived. Sorry,
Hmm.
that's the word I was thinking of. Because what Ankalaev was doing was unrelentless pressure. He was constantly pressuring Alex. He was always the one leading the dance. He was charging towards Alex most of the fight. He had Alex on his back foot most of the time during the fight. Alex wasn't really giving him anything to react to too much in the fight. So ultimately, I think that fight should have either ended up in a draw or what I saw. I thought Alex had it significantly, not significantly, but he had it based off significant strikes and everything else as well. I get it. I get what control time means and everything, but it's just when it comes to a fight, it's about the damage dealt and damage done. If you're going to be in a street fight or just any regular fight and somebody's holding you for most of the fight, but they're not hurting you, I'm not going to consider that a win because you didn't hurt them, you didn't knock them out, you didn't do anything to them.
No.
So that's ultimately where my opinion went on that. I can understand how the judges scored it. I can understand how they gave it to Ankalaev because I think round five could have been a toss up. There wasn't enough from each. I think that rounds two and four were more Ankalaev, in my opinion, but I honestly think that it should come down to a rematch, which I think they're already trying to work on booking because Ankalaev agreed to try and to do one.
Yeah, I think there definitely needs to be a rematch because I think a lot of fans, especially like fans who are really in the know of UFC like you, are just like, really? Like, really? Like, that's it? Like, this is how we're going? Like, I just didn't foresee him losing. I was so shocked. Not
Oh
even from
no.
a financial thing, because I did have, he was the last leg on my parlay that I was about to win that I was doing so well on, but
Oh, same, same.
I was just like, this is the one guy where it was just like, all right, we'll be all right because he's the last fight, and the parlay just needed him to win by any means, and it didn't work out. So it is what it is with that. How did you feel about the card overall?
The card overall, I gotta look at the card again because my brain remembers oh so much so quickly, as you guys know. Dude, why is this? All right, here we go. Yeah, card overall, I think was a pretty good card from what I remember. Like the Justin Gaethje versus Rafael Fiziev fight was a great fight. They always put on a great fight. That was a high level striking fight. Um, they were just in there scrapping like two dogs. Like I don't know if anyone like really listened and heard that fight. Like oh my gosh, that was beautiful. The Jalen Turner versus Ignacio Bama. I can never pronounce his last name right, so I'm not going to try. That was a great fight. I feel bad for Jalen Turner. He retired after the fight. I mean, he's only like, I want to say 29 or something like that. And
Wow.
to retire so early, I mean, he had a fight against Bobby Green, who was also on this card and got knocked out. And he knocked him out really bad to where he was like seizing. And so I think that did something to his mental. I mean, you've seen it with people like Uriah Hall before. Sometimes with these fighters, when they knock someone out really bad to the point to where they're seizing, it really does something to their mental and it doesn't make them want to fight as much. So I think that's ultimately what made him retire. Also, he's lost the last four out of the last five fights. Lemos versus Lucindo was a good fight that went to decision. Mauricio Rufy had the knockout potentially of the year with one of the first spinning wheel kicks in the past 4 years
That
against
was
Bobby
crazy. That
Green.
was crazy.
It was a beautiful knockout. Joshua Van versus Ray was honestly a beautiful fight. I honestly liked it. It was a unanimous decision, but Ray needs to learn how to fucking throw some hands. Bruno Ferreira, great fight, got that by submission. Overall, like looking back at this and looking at the fights and what I saw, I give this card in 8 out of 10,
Okay. Okay.
maybe 7.5. I say actually 7.5. Can't give it that high of a grade because this judging and scoring, I think, for the last fight and how that played out, I had Jalen Turner winning, and I thought he would have had put on a better performance in the striking with that one. Lemos versus Lucinda was pretty good. Ray pissed me off because he didn't know how to throw any hands. Alex Morono fumbled the bag also and got knocked out, which made me mad. So yeah, though other than that, that's why I say 7.5. That's personal bias, but I think it was a great card overall. The fights were good and entertaining.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. What's the next card, man? What's next on the UFC horizon?
I think the next one is UFC 314, which is Volkanovski versus Lopez.
Yeah.
So I think that's gonna be crazy because Bulk's chin lately has not been great. And Diego Lopez has been putting people to fucking sleep.
Mm,
And this is for the featherweight title. So I think it's going to be really good. They got Michael Chandler versus Patty Pimblett, Gene Silva versus Bryce Mitchell, Yair Rodriguez versus Patricio Pitbull, who's making his UFC debut after coming over from Bellator. So I can't wait to see Patricio Pitbull in the UFC. They've been trying to get him over. They got Carlos Prates, another one of those fighting nerds versus Geoff Neal. Mauricio Rufy, the one who had the spinning wheel kick, he's one of the fighting nerds. Fighting nerds, I'm starting to ride the fucking hype. Gene Silva and Carlos Prates, they're both fighting nerds. They're both fighting on this card. They are combined 18 and 0. All four of them are 18 and 0 combined in the UFC right now. I hope none of them lose this. Like they could all be title holders potentially.
hmm.
Um, so look for that storyline to keep developing. But
Okay.
overall, looking at this card and looking at these fighters that are fighting, there's a lot of ranked fighters. Chase Hooper's back, going against old ass Jim Miller. Oh my God. This card honestly has potential to be a 10. I'm so serious. Like, even on the early prelims, oh my goodness. Like, you got Nora Cornell versus Haley Cohen. You got
Hmm.
Trayshawn Gore and Marco Tullio. Like, this is going to be a great card. That's one I'm going to be locked in for all day.
All right. I like it. I like it. Chuck, anything else UFC related going on? Dana's talking about John Jones is going to fight in the summer as we enter the spring. Do you think
We'll
that's
see.
happening?
We'll
Yeah.
see. I mean, it's always a we'll see situation. Are you going to pay him, Dana? Because you ultimately know that's all he wants is to get paid.
Hmm.
If you don't pay him, he ain't fighting.
Hmm.
I think he's content with retiring. He'll talk shit from Twitter and have that Green Goblin type of things where he looks back and he's like, "Shit, I should put it on the mask. You disgust me. Like I should get back in there and go do my thing." But at the end of the day, he's fine with retiring with what he has now, probably, and taking care of his girls at home.
Fair enough. Anything else, man?
That's all I got, man. Just look out for more announcements usually as they come by. There should be more.
Love it. With that being said, thank you everyone for listening to the L7C podcast. Thank you for listening to the L7C Bracket Challenge UFC Edition Welterweights. Again, we're going to do this again in March next year. Different brackets, bigger, better than ever. Be on the lookout for Chuck with UFC news. We'll be coming back. Be on the lookout for the other thing that Chuck actually is the head man on, the L7C College Football Dynasty. Be on the lookout for those type of things. There's a lot going on. Be on the lookout too for Chuck. As some of you may know, he's our big UFC guy, but also Chuck's a baseball guy. Baseball season's coming up. Maybe be on the lookout. Maybe Chuck can put you guys on some game on his Twitter, and maybe we have him come on the podcast and put people on game for baseball. With that being said, thank you everyone for listening to the L7C podcast. You guys take care. Thank you for listening to this episode of the L7C podcast. Be sure to like, rate, review, and subscribe to the channel. Follow us on all social media platforms, and we'll be talking to you guys soon. Take care.